All right, welcome all. This webinar we're going to go ahead and get started is on Virtual Office Digital Tools. If you're joining in, either you can use the PC audio or you can also call in. So go ahead, if you can't hear me, go ahead and do that now. We'll also have an optional Q&A at the end. My name is James at digitalbeyond.com. That's my website. So you can reach out to me there. I'm on Twitter and other social networks. So today we're going to talk about some different things. We'll talk about just the basic tools that you'll need. So let's say you're working from home, also for students, you have school at home, so some of the basic tools you'll need for that. Accessing remote resources, so some things, especially when you're connected to the office. We'll learn some communication tips and tricks if you're not familiar with those already. Definitely some processes. We'll talk about digitizing those so you can save time. And we'll finish up with some helpful technical resources and additional resources. And we'll have time for questions at the end. So definitely we're recording these in interesting times. So COVID-19, definitely it's April 2020, just ending up the month. Obviously, it's changed life a lot for us. Some of you may have not been able to work, but a lot of places where they may have said, oh, we're not going to let you work from home, they've realized the severity of this and they've tried to do the best they can, especially schools as well. So we're going to talk about some of the tools that you'll need if you're in that situation. So one of the first things we should know is that we'll need to be connected to the internet. So either a home internet, or if you have your phone, maybe you can use it as a hotspot. You want to make sure though that you have a good signal. There are some speed tests out there. So speedtest.net is one that I've used in the past. It'll give you a little gauge of how good your signal is, how good your connection is. You should get at least 10 megabits per second. That's a measurement of the speed there. Really, if you get 100, or some of you even have more than that, that's definitely the best connection, especially if you're going to be having video connections, you're going to be watching video or doing video calls. And actually, the best connection would be a wired connection. I know many of us may use wireless. Well, you can use wireless. There's going to be some connection, especially if you're away from that wireless connection. Just keep that in mind with that. Now, as far as your device, your computer, maybe your mobile device can work for you as well, but usually a computer, a laptop for many of us, maybe a desktop computer. You want to make sure it's not too old, so within the last 5 years or so is generally about that. Whether the PC may be good or not, you want to make sure that it's clean. And what do I mean by clean? Well, you want to make sure that there's not extra programs that might have been installed. A lot of times those can be running in the background and slow down your computer. So you want to make sure you try to minimize the stuff that's running. As far as the specs for a computer, you'll find nowadays, even ones that are cheaper, maybe a few $100s, you should be able to get one that has at least 4 gigabytes of memory or the RAM or more than that. So you want to make sure you start with a good device, either connected, plugged in, or through wireless. Another thing you may want to consider as well is having good hearing, good speaking. So if you have a headset, that's definitely, I have a USB headset plugged in, so it's a cheap little set there. Has a microphone, so definitely makes the good connection there. Some have used just headphones for your, if you have for your phone, if that plugs in, that might be another option there. You could have separate speakers and a separate microphone. So that's another way as well if you're going to go that route. Definitely also one thing to keep in mind is having a mouse. That definitely, if you're trying to use the trackpad on your laptop, it's just not as good. So definitely you want to kind of have a good space either sitting or I like standing myself. So setting up your environment so you're comfortable, you're able to work. Um, Another thing also to think about is what screen size that you have. So a lot of times laptops are going to have a smaller screen. Actually, a lot of laptops nowadays even have the standard HDMI connection. So if you have a TV, you may be able to do that. Or monitors have gotten cheaper as well. So a lot of times you might want to plug in like at least a monitor or a smaller TV to your computer, so you can just have that extra real estate for that screen to work with. That can definitely help your productivity there. So also the printer, scanner, copier. A lot of times you can purchase these from the store. One thing to keep in mind is that these might be offered for a cheap price, but you always want to consider the ink that you're going to be going with. So that's something to keep in mind there. So you can always just double check online, see if there's a cheap alternative, because a lot of times that's where the companies will get you is from the ink. They want to charge you a lot for that, and will try to prevent you from being able to change that. And of course, the work area, as I mentioned, that's important. So you want to find a nice area that you can work with. If you don't have an area where you can actually close the door, obviously that would be a preferred setup. But we make with what we have. Try to just set up that area that we can minimize whatever distractions there are. Obviously, these times, it'll happen where you'll get interruptions, but that's just the way it goes there. So